Well, I come from a long tradition of art dealers. The first art dealer was my great granduncle. He was an auctioneer. And then my great-grandfather started a business with my great-granduncle together in Germany. And then he moved, during the war he had to flee Germany, so he came to Switzerland and continued to work here. But he was very lucky because he was able to start work thanks to a very good client he had, and that was Oscar Reinhardt. And then later he started work with Bürle. So thanks to these two great collectors, he was able to kind of set up the gallery in Zurich. And then my grandfather continued dealing, and he really kind of made the gallery big by making these catalogs and just traveling, visiting all the museums. He used to travel with a lot of catalogs.
My father had a gallery in der Rosastraße, which was beautiful, quite secluded, like hidden in a way a bit in Zurich. But as he made wonderful exhibitions, he attracted all the people to come and talk about art. My father would love to talk about the art he was exhibiting, about Lapie, Lobo, all these artists whom he knew, Chessac. Chessac he didn't know, but he knew the daughter of Chessac, and he had a tremendous connection to all these artists, and he was totally driven by the quality of their art.
I arrived in 1978 to England and to study music. And amazingly enough, a month later, I arrived in September, a month later I met Corinne Nathan at the time. She was studying art, a painting foundation course, and we met and we have been together ever since, which has been absolutely fantastic. And through her, well, my interest was always music and the arts. My mother was a painter, and so we were exposed to painting, but in Colombia one doesn't have a lot of exposure to real paintings. And so when I was in London, I started visiting the museums with Corinne. She showed me the work of Rembrandt. It was incredible to suddenly see these amazing masterpieces in original. And then she introduced me to Arthur Kaufmann, who had been the best friend of her grandfather. And through him I learned a lot about art. I used to cook for him, and he used to show me auction catalogs and get the estimates, the attributions, how to investigate. And by playing, he was giving me the most amazing insight, not only into art dealing but also into art history. And the friendship has continued ever since. It's amazing that there again is through generations and generations.
I don't know how Arturo and Corinne met, but they certainly used to visit my father together, and then Arturo also used to come on his own, and this was in the middle of town in Parkside next to Hyde Park Corner. Very nice flat my father had, and lots of pictures, because he still had some of his old stock, pictures and sculptures and things. And I think they used to work an exchange that you know, my father would explain to him about the pictures, you know, what's the date, and is it canvas or panel, and is it oil or tempera, that kind of thing. Real history of art education. And mind you, I think Arturo gave a lot back, because he not only did the cooking to start with, and as you know, he's an expert cook, and he did a lot of cooking for my father, who was living on his own at that point, because, like I say, my mother had died. So Arturo did the cooking, but also it was more, I make a joke of that, although it was quite important at the time, but it was the hand of friendship. And for my father, who was by this time well over 90, it was a real hand of friendship from a young student in his 20s. I suppose Arturo was in his 20s. And it really cheered up the last years of his life. I think it was very important.
We started dealing just more by accident than by wanting to deal. When we got married in 1986, we got as a present from Corinne's parents a little bit of money, and we thought of starting a collection. And with that money we thought we'll buy a drawing. It was enough to buy a good quality drawing. We bought the drawing and showed it to Corinne's father, and he said, "Oh, I like it very much. I would like to buy it from you." And we very proudly said, "No, we are not dealers, we are collectors." And he said, "Come on, we are all dealers." And then he made us an offer which we couldn't refuse, so we sold it to him and we instantly became dealers. With that money we bought then 4 drawings, and then it started to happen. And then suddenly I realized that the game I had with Arthur Kaufmann was so useful. I was so sure when I went to a sale exactly what I had to buy, and could do all this the research. I was prepared for it, and without knowing it I was inside this immediately.
There was many years when we were just buying and selling to museums all over the world. We were lucky to sell to the Metropolitan, to the National Gallery in Washington, to the British Museum, even to the Uffizi, and had friendships with collectors and museums through which we could sort of try to pass on our taste and pass on what we believed was good, and what we also learned from my father and my grandfather, and of course my mother too, who was very passionate about art. We thought of all the same, as we had given up our gallery before from the Remistrasse, to look again for a place in the heart of Zurich, to open a gallery again of our own, especially as we felt that there was interest in the family, that it will not be a dead end, that will not just be like the end of all those generations, and there is interest through Salomon. So we felt there is really a way into the future, so why not getting a place in Zurich and the gallery which could become a center for that kind of activity, and where we could also socially meet with people who hopefully would enjoy with us those moments of sharing the same interests.
Corinne, and now also with Salomon, are very much the buying part, and I have been until recently very much the selling part. Now Salomon also has a lot of energy, a lot of courage and ideas, and he has made a wonderful, really very special new clientele. People who I would have been shy to go and contact, and he is very outgoing and he has no fear of meeting big people. Corinne and I have always been like super discreet and nearly secretive.
My mission, like in the whole gallery, is more like I'm more like the arrow. Like I can see my parents; they're fantastic dealers, but they're so diverse. My mother has interest in like she's an artist, so she paints, and my father is a musician and composes. And like my mission is to kind of show a painting or a work of art and see like why is this great? Why is this painting unique? And the way I portray it to a client is, I go and tell him like, I have this fantastic thing, this is something you should buy. That's kind of my first stage. And then with time, if the client is interested in the work of art, then I start showing where I come from, why it's important for us as a family, why do we buy this, why do we believe in this. And then I go back to the client and try to kind of, before even asking like, are you gonna buy it, and is the price okay, or before starting with anything, I'm just gonna present where we come from and how we understand art. And then if there is a relationship, which sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't, then I kind of start working with him on a closer basis, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's like the way I feel that the tradition should continue. It's also shown like how I dress. I have the bow tie comes from my grandfather from the Colombian side. He always used to wear a bow tie, and my father always wears a bow tie. So this is like why I wear a bow tie.
It's amusing because it wasn't only the cooking, it was the bow tie. And if you look at my friend here, all that family suddenly wore these bow ties because my father, belonging to the sort of 1920s, 30s generation then in Germany, where everybody, all the men wore bow ties. So all of a sudden Arturo was wearing bow ties too. So it wasn't only the cooking and the art, it was bow ties. I think of the bow ties as well. But it was, I'm quite serious, our debt as a family to Arturo at that point, in being a young, amusing, friendly, jolly companion to my father, was very important. And whether we appreciated it enough at the time, I don't know, but I think we did appreciate it. And I remember subsequently, when Sasha moved my father out to Bromley, when he wasn't able to live at home anymore, I used to meet Arturo. When I went to visit, Arturo would very often be there, helping to look after my father in his last years. So I drink to the Cuéllar family.